Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today I'm going to be talking about how if your partner has to walk on eggshells around you, they are not able to be romantic or sexual in the way that you want them to be. Many people do not make this connection, and we will be exploring it as soon as I tell you to subscribe. I have over 190 subscriber episodes. My most recent one is whether sex with you is more about you being a good lover than it is about connecting to your wife. And this can be a real epiphany for some of my more preoccupied attachment guys that pride themselves on being able to go down on a woman for like 7 hours straight and think that that's like super positive and whatever. All right, so check out that episode. If even my summary sentence there made you feel uncomfortable and attacked, then imagine how much epiphany, how many epiphanies you will have in a multiple epiphany stream, like the multiple orgasms you try to give your wife when you listen to that episode. Okay, so there are a lot of people of both genders that forget that if you're difficult, then nobody's going to be able to relax around you. And that is really the summary statement of this podcast episode. So here's how it works. When somebody always has to treat you like you're fragile, and this is for men and women, and I'll discuss the gender differences in a bit, they cannot be vulnerable and open with you because they're always watching themselves. Their guard is always up so that you don't get into a bad mood. And they're managing your emotions constantly. And when you manage somebody's emotions, you're in more of a parent role with them. But even forget that, you're also in a scared child role, because the people that'll get into a relationship and stay in a relationship with somebody that they have to walk on eggshells around always did this as a kid. Otherwise, it wouldn't feel familiar. They wouldn't have been able to love this person. They would have been turned off by this person and their, just difficulty, right? But if you are used to having a difficult parent, and as a kid you had to walk on eggshells around your alcoholic father or your depressed mother or your anxious mother or your anxious father or whatever, then, or sometimes it could be a sibling, a very difficult sibling that was always yelling at you and screaming at you if you did the wrong thing, bullying you, insulting you, etc. Then if you're used to walking on eggshells around a difficult person, then you're not going to understand that that's really bad in a relationship. You just assume that all relationships are like that to some degree or another. And so that's who's going to marry you, But they can never really get healed from that trauma. In fact, you're re-traumatizing them all the time by making yourself so difficult to be around that they're always having to watch you and be hyper vigilant. What mood is he in? Like all the adult children of alcoholics say that they got hyper vigilant to sounds, because you could tell by the footfalls outside the door or as soon as the parent came into the house, their mood. So it was, you had to kind of listen. Are they drunk already? Are they going right over to the kitchen to make a drink? Are they angry or are they in a good mood? Is it like a light footfall, And so if you grow up having to be very hyper vigilant to sounds like this, then of course you're going to be super hyper vigilant and over responsive to a partner who sighs or sulks or, stomps around and that kind of thing and acts, like they're having, a tantrum or even a little small tantrum, any sort of tantrum. You're gonna not like that, but yet you feel like that's how all relationships go. So you don't really end the relationship because that's always, even in the honeymoon stage, if you're difficult, you're difficult, and you may compensate a lot more in the honeymoon stage and have more nice moments too. But difficult people, they cannot be difficult for 3 years of the honeymoon stage. So So if you're uncomfortable listening to this kind of description and you're like, well, I'm not really like that all the time. And, well, then you are. Like, if you, like, come on, like, be real. Like, are you the difficult partner in the relationship or not? Sometimes there's like two difficult partners, but if you are or not. Or if you have such little insight that your partner keeps on saying that you're difficult, you're sensitive, you get your feelings hurt a lot, you take things personally, but somehow you think that your partner's always wrong. Think about how right you think you are about your partner. I say this to people all the time. I'm like, aren't you an expert on your husband/wife's personality? And they're like, oh yeah, I know everything about it. I'm like, well, guess what then? They're an expert on your personality. So if you've gotten feedback that you can be difficult, that your mood changes the whole household, that if you're in a bad mood, everybody suffers, guess what? That's just seriously just right. I mean, that you don't even have to explore it anymore. You just got a gift. You just got some insight. It's correct. And so now the ball is in your court for what you want to do about it. Because I'll tell you, and maybe you just want to do something about it to be a good person. Maybe you're like, holy shit, I don't want my kids growing up tiptoeing around my bad mood. And then I hear I'm re-traumatizing my spouse. Wow, that's a lot of motivation to go work on my mood. And usually this means you're depressed. It just, depression, I have lots of podcasts about depression. It's genetic. Your parents probably were the same. And so you then... It's nature and nurture, like everything. So you're raised by depressed people. You learn how to act depressed, and then you got the inner structure to be depressed too. All of your DNA is from both of your parents. Even if you're adopted by depressed people, guess what? You're more likely to be depressed because there's an environmental component. You're learning how to act, how to stomp around and sigh and throw yourself into the chair, etc. So point being, that should be enough, right? To make you think, man, am I really depressed? And I have all these podcasts, like if you think everyone's an idiot, it may be depression. I have a million posts, like lesser known signs of depression, other signs of depression, right? So check that out, whole depression category on drpsychmom.com. As always, you could search for the word depression in the Spotify app for the Dr. Psych Mom show in the search bar. But either way, if you're always in a bad mood, guess what that is? It's probably depression. It's not just like, oh, I'm like a happy, healthy person that's in a bad mood every single day, thinks everybody's out to get me, and my partner thinks that I'm intolerable. That's just not a thing. It could be a personality disorder. Good news, it could be a personality disorder. But most likely, Occam's razor, there's more people with depression than personality disorders. Either way, go to therapy is the point to figure it out. But if you don't want to go to therapy, then maybe you will after I tell you this. The reason that you are not having the romantic/sexual life that you want is because nobody can open up and be real and fun and playful and genuine with somebody who is difficult. I say this all the time. Actually, search also in the Spotify search app for the word difficult. What kind of women do rigid/difficult men get? I think is one of the titles. And then I got one about women. This could be also anxiety, this kind of very tightly wound thing. But, depression and anxiety are so closely intermingled, and we don't even know if they're different, and the same medication treats both of them. So either way, it's beyond the scope of this, and it doesn't matter. You're struggling with some mood issues. And if you're thinking that a woman's going to be sexual with a man that she was just walking on eggshells around, no way, because to be sexual means to be relaxed, to be free, to be able to say things you like and you don't like. How could you give feedback to a man that was just sulking because his boss said the wrong thing to him in the wrong tone, or because you said the wrong thing to him in the wrong tone, right? So a man who takes things personally is never going to get a genuine performance feedback in bed, because nobody wants to poke the bear. If you're having sex, the woman thinks of it as kind of like giving you your medicine. It's like a sleeping pill. Okay, now we'll calm down. And she cannot at all think about optimizing her sexual experience, because God forbid she says something about your performance that you don't like, and it's like taking away the sleeping pill effect of the sex. And when you're with a difficult man, then you're having sex with him mostly as appeasement, because it's something that works. It's like giving a warm bath to a child that's cranky, or warm milk or something like that. And so the same thing for the women who want a man to be very romantic and very loving and fun and romantic. I just watched a great movie, and you should all watch it. It's called The One I Love, and it has that girl from Mad Men. I don't remember names. Elizabeth Shue, is that right? No, that can't be right. Elizabeth Moss. Anyway, point being, it's a great movie, and you should totally watch it. And it was about couples, and I cannot ruin it for you in any way, but you'll see why I'm bringing it up. There's very small personality, not very small, there's large personality tweaks that make people much better partners, you know? But anyway, so if you're a woman who wants a man to be super romantic, but then you are so reactive and difficult and oversensitive and rejection sensitive, and every time he says something tiny that you don't like, then you flip out and you sulk or you cry or you withdraw. Well, how's he going to be able to be romantic? You know, God forbid you didn't like one stanza in the love poem, he would be hearing about it for the rest of his life. You know, what if he tried to surprise you at work, but it's a day that you can't get surprised at work, and he should have known that already, and all of this stuff. And if you grew up with a parent that was much the same, where nothing was ever good enough, where they were very rigid, very specific, got their feelings very hurt, took things personally, then of course you're going to learn those behaviors. It's not your fault. You know, you don't even know. You might not even know till you heard this podcast. Imagine that. That's why I do these, by the way, because they reach a lot of people. I don't know why any of y'all listen to podcasts, but lots of you do. I certainly don't. I'm shocked that people do. Listen to them in general. This is the best one. So then, of course, you listen to this one. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, some people think it's the best one. They are my super fans. But anyway, back from that tangent. Point being that if you recognize yourself in this description, you may be like, oh my God, I am difficult. I am oversensitive. And my parent was like that. And I noticed it in them, but I didn't notice it in me. And how really could somebody be romantic? Now, I'm not saying that all of your husband's lack of romance is because you're difficult. Certainly not. But listen to this one too. When you are a very difficult woman, you're very oversensitive and you feel like you cannot cope in the world because you're always getting your feelings hurt and stuff. Then when you are dating, you're going for like this super stable guy who can be like the port in the storm. If you go to therapy and you become your own port in the storm, you know, then maybe that doesn't have to be his entire role. You know, maybe he could do other things besides constantly, again, being the sleeping pill. Sleeping pill is a very good analogy. Sex is like the sleeping pill for the difficult man. And then this like kind of very calm persona that does everything, that takes care of all the things in the house and always is there to listen. How could a man be romantic and playful under those circumstances? He's expected to be some sort of like just counterweight to your volatility. So he cannot explore being kind of more playful and more spontaneous. God forbid the spontaneity set you off, you know, and many people say this too. I'll say to the guy, I'll say, all right, so plan a date night. He's like, I can't plan a date night because the last 5 times I tried to plan a date night, one of them I should have known that it was before her exercise class, which she prioritizes her exercise to keep her mood prioritized or because to keep her mood stable. Then the other one, you know, was going to be too late. Then the other one was going to be too early. And then the other one was going to be that I should know that she doesn't want to eat so soon after she had a late lunch. And then the other one was going to be too long of a drive, so she's going to be tired. And the woman is sitting there nodding. Because if the woman's not there, then I mean, the man could be, you know, it's only his perspective, which is why when I have therapy clients or coaching clients, I love to get in the spouse for a spouse session because that spouse session, it's so useful. It's like 15 therapy sessions with the main client. the spouse comes in there like, listen, this is my perspective. And like that shit like is very helpful. But anywho, this is a couple session and she's sitting there saying, well, yeah, I can't. You know, I can only eat between 6 and 6:30. It's like, what? You're asking him to be more romantic and you can only eat between 6 and 6:30. What are we talking about? How could he possibly be romantic? You know, were you like this early on? And of course they weren't, and I get it. Honeymoon stage opened up the window, then they could eat for, you know, a 90-minute window instead of a 30-minute window. I get it. Nobody's being disingenuous, but at a certain time in your life, you got to look inward and say, does my difficult personality make it nearly impossible for me to get the things that I want? out of this relationship? And therefore, am I self-sabotaging? And therefore, can I work on being so damn difficult? With a combination of therapy, meds, meditation, whatever the hell works for you, and this is a major thing that people work on in therapy, by the way, and coaching, is flexibility and perspective taking, and having, and of course, the biggest motivator, particularly for women, is children. And I even have a podcast on, if you can't do scary things for you, do it for your kids, right? So if you can't eat at 6:45 for you, do it for your kids, so that they can see you go on a goddamn date night and not be so rigid and inflexible and cut off your own nose to spite your face, and therefore not get a romantic marriage. Don't show them a romantic marriage, etc., etc. Same thing for the guy. So you want a sex life. How are you going to have a good sex life with a woman who has to remember to ask about your day in a certain tone with certain eye contact? Otherwise, you're going to sulk for the rest of the night. Oh, you can't. Sex is not on the docket when you have to manage your husband's emotions in that way. All right, I got a lot packed into that episode, so I hope that you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you need a therapist or a coach, reach out to me and my practice, bestlifebehavioralhealth.com. Follow me on all social media all the time, and I'll talk to y'all soon.